What if I told you that the most introverted kid in Romania, someone who literally had to force himself to talk to strangers in the street, would eventually close deals faster than elite closers at a company doing 30 to 50 million dollars a year? And what if I told you that hitting 300 pounds at peak of his success taught him more about business than any mentor ever could? Today's guest went from earning $400 a month washing dishes at a startup to helping companies add an extra 67,000 in profit per month without a single new lead. This isn't motivational fluff. Jonathan Russo borrowed 7,000 from his sister's college fund and his own marriage savings to bet on himself. He closed two clients before he was ever hired on Gordon's company, something nobody in the company's history had ever done. He set the record for the fastest upsells in an organization that trains world-class closers. He worked with over 500, 600 companies across every continent except Antarctica. And the system he built helped clients predictably add tens of thousands in monthly profit by fixing what most entrepreneurs completely ignore. In this conversation, we're uncovering how extreme introversion became his secret weapon, why he had his mom's click the buy button because he physically couldn't. What he learned closing deals at the highest levels of online business, why hitting 300 pounds was the wake-up call he needed, and the unsexy backend systems that separate businesses that survive from businesses that scale. Let's go. So you called yourself deeply introverted, someone who loved books and solitude. Walk me back to the moment you realized that staying in that comfort zone would cost you everything you wanted. What specifically triggered that realization?
So in my story, I realized that there's nothing I like to do in life. My criteria was, what can I do forever? Like, can I be a doctor forever? Can I be a baker forever? Can I be a chef forever? And my answer was no, because it doesn't interest me that much. So what I've done is I've realized I need to do business. So then I looked at myself and I was like, who is this kid? I don't like if somebody was trying to pick a fight with me, I would never fight back. I was the kind of kid you would slap and I would just basically do nothing. You could walk over me like a carpet. And I looked at myself and I was like, is this the kind of man who can actually build a business? And the answer was no. Well, actually, now I know that being an introvert is actually a superpower in the business world. But then I thought you need to be a super flashy extrovert, Lambo driving, person who has tons of assistants who do everything. So yeah, I realized that I needed to change. So I did. I did it the way I knew how.
Yeah, and that's exactly what, yeah, like you said, a lot of people don't realize, and because they just see the flashy stuff, that's usually what get a lot of people into business is the flashy stuff, and then you realize there's much more to that, and there's much more than just, material success, and that's when you actually, find the real passion or the real work begins is after that, after the, you know, I guess the flashy stuff for the most part. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And here's the thing, bro. I haven't been doing crazy stuff. It's not like I went and, went to Thailand for 5 years, trained Muay Thai arts, and then came back as a fighter. I just started going on the street and talking to people. I went to the market and tried to negotiate deals. I just did like very little things that added up. And just actually my brain realizing that talking to a stranger, like that thing isn't something that's gonna kill me. That actually helped me a ton in the future because that opened doors. And what I found is a lot of times we have the most amazing advice. We have the most amazing tips that we need to do. And we never do them because it's so easy.
Yeah. What I was gonna ask about as well is like when you were going out to the markets, forcing yourself to talk to strangers. For an introvert, that's like psychological, warfare. And
Yeah.
describe like the first time you did it, and what did your body feel like? What did how close did you come to quitting?
So obviously, I think I went the smart way about it. Whenever you want to talk to a stranger, you want to talk to somebody who's approachable. If you go to the busy person talking on the phone and basically running on the street, you're not going to have a good experience. So I started talking with elderly people. What really is cool about elderly people is they're open to have a chat. They have so many things to talk to you about. Like they are waiting for somebody to come and talk to them. So I started with that. And then I went to, like, here in Romania, we have these old school markets where you can actually negotiate price. So I remember I went there and I was really interested in the way they produce all that fruit. They produce all the vegetables. I asked questions. I wanted to be, I basically wanted to show that I really care. And what I did is, obviously they gave me a lot of free samples. So that was really helpful because I got immediate reward. But then that really helped me to realize that people are just keen to talk about and have a conversation. Obviously, my intent was just to have a conversation. If you go to a girl on the street and then try to approach her with a breath that reeks of "I just want you," obviously they're gonna get self-resistance and they're not gonna talk to you. But if you're just a normal human and you want to have a real conversation, many people will actually pick up on that and respond. And in regards to your specific question on how did my body feel, well, that's a great question. I don't really remember, but I just remember there's many times where I felt like my body was getting cold, all of a sudden, like my blood was freezing in my veins, and I just couldn't do it. But the thing that really changed everything was when I decided to go against my fear, when I decided to take the step forward, even if it's small. The moment I did that, that really showed something to me. That showed me that I can do it. And because I've done it in small steps, like talking to a stranger, that allowed me to do it again and again and again until today.
Yeah, and so you did this throughout high school, like going to the markets and everything. That means like, hundreds and maybe thousands of, awkward conversations. Was there a specific conversation where you felt like the shift of like, okay, now you're starting to be actually good at, speaking to people?
Well, I'm not sure if I can pinpoint one conversation, but as you do something many, many times, you just wake up one day and you realize that you can do it. You wake up one day and like all that accumulated, work that you have been put in and nobody has seen it. One day you feel that things shifted. So I cannot say there's a certain conversation that shifted it for me. But I know there's been a moment where I got to a point where I was like, okay, now I can basically talk to anyone.
Okay. And yeah, that's usually what happens. It becomes like this normal thing of like, okay, basically becomes your standard, becomes normal of like having conversation or, whatever the case might be, you know, whatever skill or thing that you're doing repeatedly, like whether it comes to sales or whether it comes to skill or maybe you start to do it more and more and then it becomes normal. Um, yeah.
Or I'm so
$400 a month in Romania, doing literally everything from sales to washing dishes and fixing the company car. Most people would call that exploitation, but you called it an amazing self-development experience. What did you see that other people would have missed?
well, let me be clear. I felt exploited, okay? Like when I was in it, I was like, bro, like what the heck am I doing here? Like I'm not making any money. There's all these people making all this money. There's people who don't even have my education and degrees. In the same jobs I could have applied for make more money than me. So I went through all those ups and downs, right? I did. I did. And here's what's funny is whenever you go through an experience like that, it crushes a part of you. Like it crushes your ego. It crushes your the part of you that it has a false assurance. And it's not like you don't feel that, you feel it. You feel that you're exploited. You feel that you can make more. You feel everything. But looking back, I realized that though it wasn't easy financially, it was a blessing because I could have done so many things. But more than that, what kept me there, right? Because that's a logical next question, bro. If you felt it, why did you stay? But what kept me there was actually more than that. It was the vision of the company, the fact that I really wanted to make the company a success. So that's why I stayed. And even though I left at one point, I left because I've done everything I could. And also the company didn't, perform well because it was a startup. So I have done everything in my power to do well. And then obviously I took all the lessons from then and continued on in my journey.
So tell me more about that. Like where's the point that you felt like, okay, doesn't make sense for me to continue. I feel like the work I'm putting is not being either appreciated or, maybe seeing results from it.
Well, I know it was really appreciated, but not because of ill will, but just because of a difference in perspective. The owner was a tech guy. He was great at tech, but he wasn't really good at business building and marketing because when you know tech, you know tech. And he thought he needed to invest all the money in product, and he did. And that's also one of the reasons why the business failed, because if he invested it wisely in marketing and sales, and just build a short MVP, he would have a much higher chance of success. So what I've done while doing all that work is I have actually started searching online and ways to make money. Being I've started learning from other people. And that has been a blessing because my perspective have expanded. And having my perspectives expanded and seeing what's possible, I saw that the current vehicle I'm in doesn't cut it anymore. And it was very hard for me to give up on the mission. So it was the perfect time where basically the company couldn't afford to pay me anymore. And then I was like, okay, so this is the perfect time where I can just move on then with something else. So that's what I've done there.
Yeah, I relate the same thing. When a company, you worked on there for a while and then it just you don't see the growth and the future in it anymore. And as well as when you see a different opportunity that has, more potential and like you said, maybe the right vehicle, then it's like, okay, now is a good sign to head to the next,
Yep.
venture.
Yep.
So after 2 years, you said that you hit a ceiling. What does that actually mean? What was the skill ceiling or money ceiling? Do you realize you were building someone else's dream instead of your own?
It was more of a vehicle ceiling.
Okay.
The company I was in couldn't reach the goals I wanted to. And yes, of course, it was also skill ceiling. Yes, of course, it was also money, you know, ceiling. Because till then, I have never invested in myself, besides just business school and free stuff and, downloading courses from the internet. Like I've done that in the past, and right now, like I've stopped a long while ago because I realized, for example, that information by itself doesn't get you results. There's so many people who could just download the best courses on the internet. They could just download, even if it's illegal, they can do it. And man, they don't have results. I don't know anybody, like not even one person in my current network or near it, who's like, yes, I have made so much money from downloading courses. Nobody. Why do you think that?
There's no commitment. You feel like you have the information forever, and yeah,
You don't use it. Yeah. And that's exactly why. There's no commitment. People do not, what you pay, you commit to, obviously. And then you don't have the support to implement it. And then also there's a third one. People don't actually know how to build a course that gets results. They just chug information into one place and call it a course. That's a different story altogether.
yeah, yeah. That is also true. Yeah, tell me more about that then. A little bit of why you think courses are not built correctly.
So the thing is, have you ever seen courses marketed like you have 70 hours of course content and they added like a big value add? You've seen that, right? Have you ever seen people showcase how much content they put in their course? Have you ever talked to entrepreneurs being proud of how much they give?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Do but here's the thing, that's not the best thing to do. Here's why. Because what happens a lot is when you give a lot of information, people get blocked in it. One of the companies I used to work with in the past, they used to help people start a business, scale a business, hire people, do organic, do ads, do everything in just one offer. We got higher level entrepreneurs who are like, Why are there so many beginners here? And we got beginners getting confused and wanting to hire people fast because they couldn't handle the pressure of going through learning the skill to do it themselves in the beginning. So when we learned that it was wrong, we separated into two offers, and that changed allowed the company to make an extra $1 million in 6 months. But aside from that, for the courses, the way to think about a course is if you don't have anything else, if you just have this one course, you don't have coaching, you don't have one-on-one calls, you don't have community, you just have one course. Is this enough for people to get the promised result? And if you're really honest about it, many people, like 97% of them, are going to say, well, no, it's not enough because they also need this and this and this. Okay. This is the first thing. It's the philosophy of building a course. And then the second thing I can say right now is when you have a course, you want to give the minimum you need for them to get results, not the maximum you think they need. Because if you give so much information, you put so much pressure on the person. They go through much information, they retain a little of it, they do not take action on it, they do not get results, and they just don't pay again. But if you have an actionable course where you have the minimum necessary, focused on implementation, made so that you cannot go to the next module unless you have done the action steps on the first module, made so that by the end of doing all the action steps, they should actually get the result. If you make it that way, your life is going to get changed. And also, to add a bonus on that, just think of the fact that the course is amazing at transferring information. And a lot of the problem with delivery in itself is the fact that we do not know how to set expectations. We do not know how to actually build an experience. So if you do the course area right, then you can build an experience and you can set expectations and you can solve a lot of the problems people have with delivery just from one course.
Yeah. The previous guest had something similar where he had only less than an hour worth of content, and he just wants it was for sales reps, and he just wants them to take action, and then they get feedback. They get, I think, weekly calls, and they get opportunities as well, but they mainly is just to get the least, like you said, the least amount of content to help them start taking action. And then from there, that's when they hop on the calls to get feedback and things like that.
Yeah, well, the danger is people may give too little though. That may happen. So I know what a good sales training company looks like. I mean, it depends. If you're training a full beginner, then obviously you need more information. But the role of information is to just help people take action. That's it. If you have information that doesn't help people take action, then it's extra information.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. Going back to your story, you said you had $1,000 saved, which when you're making $400 a month, $400 a month is everything that you're making. So you invested it all and then went to zero. Take me into the week after that money was gone and the business didn't work. What were the conversations you had with yourself?
Here's what's really funny though. Remember how I said when you go through over that step of being afraid and making the decision, then you train yourself to do it again. That really helped me in that period because I actually never thought ever in my life that the fault is with the person who I invested the money into. I see now the deficiencies of their process and why it, or what they could have done much better for me. But I don't blame them. So that's very important because you see many people who invest in a program and they're like, this program sucks, it doesn't work. It's like, this mentor doesn't know anything. Like, come on. And yes, bro, it may be true. Even so, extract information, implement it. You're going to have results. You should have results. So with me, regarding that, obviously, it took me so much to make a decision. Like, I had so many conversations with my family. Like, should I do it? Should I not do it? Like, this is everything I have in my account. Like, literally everything I have in my account. Like, I'm going to go to zero. And I was like, okay, well, what's the alternative though? To stay here? To continue making $400 a month? Is that a future I can accept? And my answer was obviously no. So I did it. I did it, and then I felt hope. I felt hope in my stomach. I felt hope that finally I've taken a step in the right path. And by doing that, I'm here now. And every single money I invested that it was hard for me to invest. It's amazing. So right now, if I invest $10,000, for example, it's not even, it's not even that big of an issue compared to that $1,000 I invested. Like that was crazy.
Yeah,
And
of
then,
course.
and then when things didn't work out, the only thing I was asking myself, then there is something that I don't know. I need to get it. There is something I don't know. I need to get it. I wasn't thinking that they are the problem. There's something I don't know. So that's why I continued.
There's something that they know that we don't know, yeah. You talked about the white label system that failed because of 24-hour response time. You couldn't deliver at the standard you needed. Looking back, was that failure actually was that actually a character reveal? What did it show you about who you are and what you refuse to compromise on?
Well, so that was the first thing I invested into is like an agency thing. They kind of taught you how to build an agency, and they also had like a white label fulfillment service. You don't need to know how to make a website. You can just go through them. You don't need to know everything. You do it through them. It was a very good offer on the paper. And then obviously, as you know, like I had a client, they had some issues. I tried to get support. The support came 24 hours. Just now having a super angry client and having nothing to say to the client but wait, when obviously I should be the person knowing, gives a message of that I do not know my stuff. Gives a message of that I do not have a handle on this. I didn't want my future clients to have this problem. If I have a partner, then I need to be able to get a hold of them way quicker. If they're a delivery partner, I need to have, I need to be able to do that. Unless they take care of client communication. If they do that, then perfect. But the problem was the responsibility was on me to make sure of all that. And if I had any issues, I couldn't even have direct access to the people doing the service. So that was crazy to me. Like that was really crazy. And I didn't really want to continue with that path. So what showed me is that agency work is not for me. One, because I didn't have the skills at that time to do it at the level I wanted to. And two, the people who had the skills, I couldn't trust them. And obviously now I know much different, but that was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. So that was something that you learned part of your journey that I realized as well is that every single thing that you've done that most entrepreneurs have done in the beginning are lessons and things that you take on and you add on to your, I guess you can say your resume, lessons that you keep and then you learn from and you keep adding on as well. Going back a little bit, so from there, you're sitting there with another $1,000 and then the checkout page is open for Trey Cockrum mentorship. Did I say that name right? And you physically cannot click the button. You're frozen. What happened in your mind in that paralysis? And what were you actually afraid of?
Well, by the way, Trey is an amazing guy. I don't know really I don't really know him personally, but I know he's a super solid dude. And right now he's still having success with his business, so that's why it's important to note that. What my experience with that wasn't the best, but before talking about that experience, if it's even relevant, I realized as I said, there's something I still don't know, and I have been watching some of the videos on YouTube that he was making, and I was like, I think this guy can help me. And he was doing like a lot, like a last minute, kind of end of the program, thing, the program launch, something like that. And he said he has 10 spots for people for 1K. And I had the money saved up again, but because of the previous failure, it was kind of way harder for me to invest again. So even if I knew in my mind that this is what I needed to do, emotionally, it was crippling. I couldn't do it. Like literally, I had the checkout page open and I couldn't press buy. And here's the thing, I knew that I needed to do it. I knew it. And I called my mother and say, hey, I cannot do this. Like my body is not listening. Literally, my body is not listening. So I said, mother, please come. Just press this button. She looked at me. She said, for real? Like, do you really want to make this? I said, yes, do it. And she said, okay, I'm going to do it. She pressed. Off we did. Off we went. And then she bought it for me with my money, obviously. But still, it's to zero again. To zero again. It was, again, numbing a little bit. I felt so scared, but I still did. I did it scared. And
And
this is, by the way,
yeah,
something that really, like, you've seen it yourself a lot, Prince. Like, many people, many entrepreneurs who we've talked to did it scared at one point. You yourself, I'm sure, did it scared.
yeah, I remember just borrowing money and paying for it, and then okay, now it's even more serious. I owe money either to my mom, the first program, and then the second one to this client that was pressing me. Is like, okay, I have a lawyer. You got to make sure to pay me by this time. So I had no choice but to make money. So yeah,
No choice but to make money. No choice but to make money is such a key phrase in every success story because you unlock something in yourself when you get there. When you're like, okay, now I'm facing the wall. There's nothing, like there's no excuse I can sell myself. Until now, I could gaslight myself. I could say, okay, I can just lie. But when the bank account is zero, when the lawyer is calling you to collect the rest of the money, you're like, okay, now there's no excuse I can say. So I think that is vital to every single entrepreneur to feel. That is vital.
yeah. So you said your mom clicked it for you, and then that's one of the most honest moments I've heard in entrepreneurship, admitting you needed somebody else to push you past your fears. How did that moment change your relationship with taking risks after that?
Well, I took even more. I just realized that, taking risk doesn't kill you. So I did. And the good part was that I took it when I didn't have big responsibilities. I didn't have family. I didn't have like 7 kids running around that needed to be fed. I just could do it. And what's the worst thing that can happen, man? Move back home?
Exactly.
Like, really? That's it? Is this the price that I was willing to pay to see a life where I wasn't just doing another 9 to 5? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna 100% do it. So then you know what happened, right? That experience didn't really go that well either. I learned a lot, but the teaching was very surface level. And right now, when building kind of delivery systems that make money for people, like if a delivery system needs to make money, then the philosophy behind it is crazy. Like you cannot be complacent about it. Because if the experience is not amazing, if the product doesn't pop, if the client do not get fast results, they're not gonna buy again. But then if you don't want to optimize for that, you just chug people into a delivery system that's broken and you focus on marketing and sales. And this is why companies do not last for more than 2-3 years on the market. Or you've seen all these entrepreneurs changing offers again and again and again. 3 years ago, they were doing agency. 2 years ago, they were doing coaching. Now they're doing AI. Next year, they're going to do whatever. Do you know why? Because they just change. They just run trends. So, and this is actually one of my goals is I really want to help these entrepreneurs who actually care about their people build forever businesses. So in 20 years, they're going to be here. We know about Tony Robbins. He's one of the biggest. Well, the reason why he's one of the biggest is because he's been in this space for years, for 20 years, for 30 years. Everybody knows him. And you know about Hormozy as well. He was doing content for years. Most people cannot even last 3 years because they had 2 bad months. And after that, like, okay, this doesn't work. I'm going to give up. So my goal is to build a systems. Is helping people actually build systems that are more than just market marketing or sales, and which are amazing, super important, like vital actually. But that alone doesn't make a company sustain itself for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it was Hermosi was saying it himself as well. It's like you can get your company to, I think, was it six figures a month? Was it? Or yeah, six or $1 million business with just sales and marketing. But then after that, you got to focus on your product. Yeah. So I know not after that, you still have to focus on your product, but like you can get to decent numbers, but then number one, like you said, it won't last. And number two is just for yourself, your own ethics, your own morals, your own peace of mind. Just yeah, I like that it's this online space. It's designed in a way where it's kind of incentivized for having a good reputation, doing a good product, helping clients. Because if not, eventually you'll get caught. Eventually people will talk about you. Eventually, there's negative word of mouth. There's so much things that will push you against, having bad products, and clients get more sophisticated, they understand more, and they get burned and all this stuff. So at least, you know that, okay, if I do good, if I build a good product, if I do the best that I can, then okay, I will get rewarded in especially the long run.
Especially for product. So just think of this. Like, what if you can never market again? What if Meta closes? What if you get shadow banned on Instagram? What if somebody steals your email list? Are you gonna still make money? Most people will die off because they just have a good running VSL. And if that good running VSL doesn't work anymore, they make 10% of what they made the month before, and they need to fire their business. So this is what I try to help people with. I've seen this so many times working with many businesses, and I don't want to see it again. I just don't want.
That's one of the most interesting perspective that I've seen, with this. And it does happen. Like you said, it has happened many times. The shadow banning, the, losing your account, somebody getting hacking you, all these things happen. So yeah, but the way you position it is like, okay, yeah, like these things are gonna happen, and you need to actually build something that lasts, and that is, more, I guess you can say, bulletproof. And
Yeah, and I like the fact that right now there's people like Alex from Aussie talking about it, about product and importance of it. But here's the thing: people do not know how to actually build it. They don't. They're like, oh, product, nice, but they don't. There's so few people actually teaching it right now in the market, in the whole world market. I'm here focusing on the Romanian market a lot, bro. There's nobody who knows. Like, there's people who don't really understand what I'm talking about. I just need to, but once they understand it, they want it. Like, I have never gotten a price objection here, never. And I'm not selling something that's worth 3K, right? I'm selling pretty high ticket. I have never gotten a price objection here once they understand it. I always get price objections if they don't get it. But once they get it, they want it, because who wouldn't? Like, just last week, I was in Dubai with one of my clients. I spent a full week with him, which is crazy, by the way, in this space. Like, who does that? But I'm doing something super unscalable just because I want to go so deep with my clients. Not everybody, a few of them. To really make sure that the product I'm building myself is bulletproof. And I'm willing to do the unscalable. So we went so deep. He has a sales coaching program. He just built it. He got it to around 50K in 4 months after launch, which is very good. After we launch a completely new offer, after 4 months, making 50K a month is great. And just last month, we didn't even actually start working on it properly. We just had some initial conversations where I gave him some ideas. He made around 10K backend revenue just from some ideas. And now we spend a full week together. We worked deeply on every single part of his delivery. We're not even done. But what I can say for sure is this: I know for a fact that when a client goes through the whole process and implements, and when a coach does what we've told them to do, the client should have 100% success rate. And if they don't, it's not because the system is broken. It's because the person, is actually not doing the work. But do you know what the problem is, bro?
What is it?
People, a lot of times, they talk to clients who do not have success and they gaslight the clients the fact that they haven't done the work well, which is many of the times true. But many of times, their offer actually and delivery actually sucks. And they don't have a process that helps people get results. So this is why I'm doing this offer, man. And I'm not working with many entrepreneurs. I'm working with a handful because I'm working deeply with them.
And is that in the Romania market as well?
Yeah, it's mainly in the Romanian market. I had some international clients on this offer, and I'm potentially gonna get one or two international clients as well. One of my other clients, after a few months of working, she added 50K a month in backend revenue. Okay. Do you know how much it was before we got started? Like 3K, like 4K. And this is money, by the way, 80% profit. So sometimes when you have like a 200K a month business, but you have 50% profit, if you make 50K from backend and 8% profit is like having an extra 30, 45, 30, 40% profit every single month. It's like buying an extra Lamborghini Urus every single year. So that's the power of it. And this is only a part of it, by the way. It's much deeper than this.
Okay. Yeah, that is really great results going from those amounts, and especially in those markets as well, smaller markets, going from that and the short time period, and also delivering a good, fulfillment, which is will last a longer time. Because I've heard so many stories of different coaches and different, people going from, smaller amount to a bigger amount, but then the next month they're all the way back down, or they're, you know, it's not, they don't maintain it, right? So I assume that yours is also more, going in a, upward trajectory.
Yep. And once it builds momentum, it grows. It grows. So the hardest part with this is the first few months because you need to rework on the experience part of the delivery. You need to really rework it. So you don't really gonna see results a lot. But then it builds momentum and then you make more and more and more and more and more and more and more. I've seen companies who have 90% retention rates. So that means 9 of 10 clients pay again a high ticket price. Can't even imagine what that's basically doubling a business from delivery alone, which is crazy. But people are like, no, I'm not going to invest in it because, it's hard work. Of course it's hard work. It's not for young people who don't care about business. I know that in this market, there's many people. They only care about one thing. Sales, 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 and sales. And that's great. But they're going to last for 2 years and then they're going to not be in the market anymore. Or they're going to do these mistakes for 2 years and then they're going to grow up and then they're going to also invest in this.
Yeah, you're right. It's not only about one part of the business. It's about, the fulfillment, and people are gonna want to increase the LTV. Sometimes when the sales slows down and stuff, or just maximizing the value you can give, and then as well as, yeah, there's just a lot of money left on the table for a lot of coaches, a lot of people, where they're just not upselling. Like, I think we've talked about a company that they were doing really well low ticket wise, and then they still was leaving a lot of money on the table when it comes to high ticket. And yeah, there's always room to improve even from there, masterminds and different offers that you can give.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. True.
So let me do more rapid fire since we don't have much time. Let me ask a few more questions, and then at the end you can just give some final thoughts. So let's talk about the $7,000 that you borrowed, the bet that you did. So borrowing 7,000, taking money from your, your sister's college fund and your own marriage fund. That's not just a risk. That's borrowing from your family's future. Walk me through the justification you gave yourself, and how did you know this is going to be different from the previous investments?
I just knew I could do it. I've taken risk so much. It's like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm going to get a job and pay it back. That's it. That's the worst thing
Okay.
that can happen. So it's like, I'm going to bet on myself. I didn't have money anymore. I invested, I took everything, Like I would have gone to the bank, but they wouldn't give me money. I tried to ask my millionaire uncle, he wouldn't give me money. The only person who helped me was again my parents. So I'm blessed to have had that opportunity. And if I didn't have that opportunity, I would find another way. So that's why price objections usually are not really price objections, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. As long as they are committed and they, you'll find a way. You have to believe in themselves and they believe in the person they're investing or the thing they're investing in. Yeah, there's always a way. So you said, okay, let's go to during your interview process with Cole Gordon's company, the director ghosted you, probably to test you. While you were being ghosted, you went out and closed two clients on your own before you even were hired. Nobody in the company history has ever done that. Walk me through the thinking and why did you do that?
Everybody talks the talk, nobody walks the walk. And I wanted to showcase that I'm an A player. So what best way to showcase that you're an A player in a sales company than making sales? Right? So it's like, okay, but where do you get those people? Actually, from my network. I had conversations with people in my network and basically sold the program. And they invested in the program before actually getting hired. And he was ghosting me as a test, yeah, to see how I would follow up. And then after that, he told me himself, he's in his whole career in sales and he sold millions and millions and millions. He has never received better follow up than this. And it wasn't just the sales. Like literally, I made videos. I made like a video. I researched him. I know he likes Lord of the Rings, and I made a kind of a Lord of the Rings kind of video where I put, my face on a character. Like it was crazy. So I tried my best on that. Nobody did that, and I got a job, I guess.
That is thinking outside the box and being resourceful and showing that you're a player. So talk to me about at the peak of your performance, you hit 300 pounds. You were succeeding extremely externally, but certainly something was broken internally. When did you first realize you were destroying your body to build your business, and how long did you ignore it before you did something about it?
I ignored it for months. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. Like I know I was invited to a wedding to one of my friends, and then the only reason I didn't go to the wedding was because I hated the way I look. So really, like there were people like I was coaching entrepreneurs, I was helping people make decisions, I was helping people level up, and I did level up myself, but then I kind of didn't do it anymore. You know, so I realized that I needed help. And the moment I realized that, I took action and I got a coach to help me. And the first thing I told the coach is say, hey, I don't feel any motivation to change, but I know that I need to do that. And he said, perfect, we can work with that. And that's where I started to change. I lost about 70 pounds or like 75 pounds. I need still on the way to lose more, but yeah, it's been life changing.
Yeah, yeah. It says here around 80, and then took you 6 month sabbatical, and yeah, that was like a completely life restructure. And what did you learn about yourself during those 6 months that you couldn't learn, when you were just working on your business that you didn't learn there?
Well, the sabbatical was great because I realized that not doing anything is not great. Like having a break is not great. Like it's great to go for 1 week, 2 weeks maybe, but then you're like, okay, so what do I do now? And then I did like I discovered God way deeper. I had some realization in the spiritual part of my faith, and like that was a really big thing for me. And then I could actually just escape the burnout and figure out what I actually want to do. And in that time I actually figured out that I want to help companies with this.
Any final thoughts for the audience? Any piece of advice from your, many, many years of business experience and, journey?
Yeah, for sure. So by the way, I still consider myself a beginner. There's so many amazing entrepreneurs in this space that I feel like I'm just I'm just getting started. But I try to do my own stuff and I try to grow as well. And I'm sure in 5 years from now I'm gonna be completely different, 100%. But still, based on my experience so far, if I were to talk to two types of people, my first advice would be, I understand that the fear component and doing things while having fear is one of the keys to actually have success, because then you earn the right to success. You really hardly earn the right to success if everything goes your way. So that's one of the things, and I think that's gonna happen at every single level of the game. And two, if you have a business right now, that you work and you want to help people and you want to coach people and you want to help them get results, the best thing that you can do with them, the best thing that you can do is, once you have proof of concept, once you have a process that generates leads and generates sales constantly, then the best thing that you can do is invest in product and make sure that you have a system where you can 100% fully and confidently and based on data, not based on your delusions, can get people results, because that's going to allow you to stay in the game for long.
Awesome. Thank you so much for hopping on this podcast and appreciate it.
You're welcome, brother. It's been a pleasure.